It's the Matt Hawker Show.
Welcome to the Matt Hawker Show. Today we're going to be talking about the Tao of big guys. What does it mean to be a big guy? What is it all about? How does one become a big guy? Can anyone be a big guy? Does a big guy influence the world? Does a big guy change the world? Does a big guy matter? These are things that a lot of people have asked, and I'm here to answer them today. Today we're going to be referencing in particular the Dark Knight Rises movie, and by Christopher Nolan, and it's a great movie. Highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Specifically, the first 20 minutes. I don't know. The point is that there's a great scene in here. It really tells you all you need to know about life and big guys and the Tao of big guys and what does it mean to be a big guy. In this sequence of events, there are two titular characters that are really relevant here. There's CIA, who we know is CIA because he goes, "I'm CIA," and there's Bane. Bane is a big guy, but honestly, CIA is a big guy too. Now, you might be watching the scene, and I highly recommend if you haven't seen it yet, as I recommended previously, go pause this podcast, go get the DVD, rent it. Go to your local Blockbuster and pick it up, whatever you have to do. But get this movie, go home, make a nice basket of lobsters, and just get into this film. Great stuff. And then, come back, listen in, and you'll have a better idea of what I'm talking about. But CIA is, he's a tiny man, but he's a big guy. And you might think, well, Matt, that's contradictory. That doesn't make sense. But I'm going to get into it here. First of all, Bane is the villain of the movie. He's the big bad guy. He's also, as aforementioned, a big guy. You can take out bad. What do you get? Big guy. That's just how it goes. So the big bad guy is also a big guy. CIA, he's the hero of the film. CIA is doing everything he can to stop Bane. And initially, he doesn't even know that Bane, the biggest man that he's probably ever seen in his entire life, is Bane. Being a big guy, and this really gets into being what a big guy is about. Being a big guy is knowing how to blend into your surroundings, to not let other people know that you're a big guy. And as we see here, CIA, a tiny man, and Bane, a very large man, they both are able to conceal their big guy appearance very easily. This is mostly due to the fact that being a big guy is a philosophy much more than it is a physical attribute, although they can be intertwined and they can go they're very much parallel in a lot of ways. It really depends on how much you embrace the big guy philosophy. So, for example, Bane has something over his head which conceals his identity. Now, CIA doesn't immediately recognize that Bane is a big guy, and he doesn't really recognize that Bane is Bane. So what happens? He pulls the mask off. He sees Bane. Suddenly, this enters a new conflict. CIA begins to question, is this guy going to be a big guy? Is this guy going to be a threat to me? Now, unfortunately, we don't really know that yet, and CIA doesn't either. But CIA is a big guy, and a big guy is a smart guy, and a smart guy knows that they need to do a little investigation. So CIA basically, throughout this scene, is doing all sorts of things to try to figure out what Bane is up to. And they have an intimate scene where and this is a bit of a meme, but really it's not intimate at all, where CIA basically goes, you're a big guy, and Bane goes, for you. This has nothing to do with what anyone believes it has to do with. A lot of people say that this is sort of some romantic gesture between Bane and CIA, but the reality is that Bane is trying to say, I too am a big guy. I embrace your philosophy. I embrace your mentality. However, unfortunately, our philosophy has led us down different paths. And while we find the measures within this ideology, a form in which we can both embrace, unfortunately, how we utilize them within a tangible setting has come to a split. And we must unfortunately separate and go about our different ways. You see, all big guys are interconnected. We are all one. And I know this because I too am a big guy. Big guys know how to reach out to each other. They know how to sense each other. It's why CIA was so confused. Now, CIA, like I said, he was suspicious early on. He wasn't 100% sure, but deep down in his heart of hearts, he knew he was confronting a big guy. And I think part of this was just sort of denying that in a way. He didn't want it to be a big guy. He didn't want the enemy to be a big guy. He knew Bane was a big guy, but he didn't want to believe it. And when he saw it, his eyes and his heart, they interpreted different things. And I think that's a struggle that all big guys face. The reality is, if you're a cop or, maybe you're a soldier, you're at war, and you encounter another big guy on the battlefield, the last thing you're going to want to do is stop him. being a big guy is a way of life. It is a movement. It is a procedure that we all follow. Big guys, anyway. Now, some people might say, hey, I'm a girl. Can I be a big guy? Or, hey, I don't identify as a big guy. How do I go about changing that? The reality is anyone can be a big guy, and anyone can be a big guy for you, which is, a popular phrase that we use amongst ourselves to sort of establish our presence without really upsetting those who are little guys. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The scene basically has a number of instances where they sort of, go back and forth between this sort of thing. I think CIA is immediately right in the beginning of the scene trying to not let Bane onto the plane. And let me make sure I get the quote right. Let's see right here. He says, "You don't get to bring friends." See, there's a scene at the beginning of this whole bit where basically this driver is trying to get Bane and two others onto the plane, and CIA denies it. He knows right away that there could be a big guy encounter, and he doesn't want to have that experience as a part of, his whole procedure. He wants that gone. Big guys don't want to hurt other big guys. Big guys don't want to hurt little guys either, but they know that big guys are better, and, sometimes you got to get rid of the little guy and, for the big guy. That's how it goes. No worries. But a big guy knows. A big guy always knows. So what are some core elements of a big guy? Well, a big guy is obviously big. Within himself. It's sort of like, for you Doctor Who nerds out there, it's like, the tartar sauce or whatever. You go into the sauce and it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. That's pretty much what being a big guy is all about. You have room for more. You're always working to change. Famous big guys in history, Shaquille O'Neal, that blue guy from Watchmen, the spirit of the Holy Trinity of God, Adolf Hitler's dog, that was a big guy. We'll get into that. Can animals be big guys? Yes, they can. Goodness, there's some other big guys. I mean, there's so many big guys out there. Now, you'll notice I named mostly guys and intangible objects and metaphysical concepts, and that's okay. Oh, any omnipresent force is also a big guy. Every actress that played in Charlie's Angels and any instance of Charlie's Angels ever were big guys. The squirrel from SpongeBob, Sandy, big guy. Mewtwo, big guy. Pokemon, not a lot of big guys in there. Mewtwo, definitely. All of these big guys are real. They exist in reality, but they choose to show themselves in fiction or in past instances in order to not scare or confuse people that aren't big guys. And that's part of the big guy experience, making sure that, you're cool and comfortable with everyone around you, but particularly other big guys. And that's a really great thing. And I'm really proud to be a big guy and part of the big guy movement in that regard. Being a big guy is about driving a small car to not scare other individuals. Being a big guy is about, you don't necessarily, you're contrarian, but only when no one's looking. Being a big guy is all about going against the odds at all costs, even if it means going against yourself. And that's why there are conflicting big guys out there. I mean, let's face it, Hitler's dog didn't want to be the dog of a dictator, but he knew he needed to be in that role, and he knew he needed to go against the odds, and that's okay. Nobody gets mad at Hitler's dog, and for good reason. He was a big guy, and he was a big guy for you, and for me, and for all of us. The Spirit in God, there's Jesus, and there's the Father. A lot of people don't really think about the Spirit that much. Jesus came onto the earth, I guess, okay. The Father, he, made some apples, but the Spirit is truly the big guy. The Spirit is working behind the scenes. He doesn't want anyone to know about him. He doesn't want anyone to make a big deal out of him. He just wants to do his thing, be a spirit, but more importantly, be a big guy. And he keeps it secret too. This is the OG big guy if you're a Christian. That's just the reality of it. For the Buddhists out there, there are no big guys. And for nihilists, the big nothing, that's the biggest guy of all. Let's face it, any philosophy you get into, there's always going to be a big guy that you can trace back to as for the origin of that ideology or the focus of that mindset. Incredible. Being a big guy really is just, It's important. It's important to have big guys. It's important to have guys. And remember, this isn't just a guy that's big. This is a big guy. And this isn't the biggest guy. It's just a big guy. And that's the other thing, too, you need to keep in mind. These guys aren't going around saying, I'm the biggest guy. I'm the guy that's biggest. They're saying, I'm a big guy. They never say, I'm the biggest guy. Never. Ever. And that's really important because no big guy is above another big guy. We're all on the same level no matter what. There's two levels, big guy and everything below that. Now that second level has tiers, maybe they're medium guys or tiny guys, or they're not a guy, they're something else. Maybe they're a plant or an animal or a girl or a weird guy, just a really weird guy. But that's all separated from big guys. No matter what you are, you can be a big guy. And that's what I really want to talk about here now. Anyone can become a big guy. Like I said, this is a philosophy. This is something that you can enter into. Now, some people are born with being a big guy, as being a big guy. Swamp Thing, he was born as a big guy, and that's okay. Boom, big guy, Swamp Thing, cool, awesome. I can't think of anyone else, but Swamp Thing, born as a big guy. I like to think I was born as a big guy, but I really don't think I came into it until around 2 or 3. And that's thanks to my great teacher back in the era, whose name I don't remember. And she was a big guy, and she kind of faded away from memory. That's okay. I'll see her again one day in Big Guyala, which is like Valhalla for big guys, where we all sit around and talk about being big guys all the time. But yeah, anyone can become a big guy. It's not hard. It's time consuming, and I guess some parts of it are strenuous. Maybe I'm over exaggerating that. I'm a big guy, so a lot of things come easy and come naturally. But for the most part, being a big guy really is just going out there and being a big guy. That's really all you got to do. You just got to be a big guy. You don't stress over it. You just do it. And I guess for some people it can be hard. It can be scary even to start that journey into being a big guy. But once you do it, you'll get there. Sometimes to open the door, you got to twist the knob. Sometimes to ride the river, you got to drown. Sometimes to start a rainbow, then you got to stab a man. And, that's just how it goes. That's just how life is. The sun rises and then it sets. Who can explain that? Big guys. That's why you see a lot of big guys in engineering and science and math. They're there to answer the questions, but they're not there for the fame. And that's really important. And that's really great. So yeah, anyone can be a big guy. You just got to work for it. Finally, just talking about the Tuh-Ow of big guys, the Tuh-Ow of being a big guy, the Tuh-Ow of a big guy. A lot of people say they're larger than life, but they're not. They are life. Life is the big guy. And maybe even beyond the big nothing, life might be the coolest big guy of all. And I know earlier, by the way, I think I mentioned that nothing is the biggest guy or is one of the greater big guys. And I realize that sounds contradictory with my whole thing, all big guys are equal. But remember, there can be a bigger big guy, but he's not the biggest big guy. There's never a biggest big guy. And even then, all big guys remain equal. It's like, sinning in the Bible. You can rip someone's face open and stuff a bunch of slugs down there and then pee on his nose. But that's just the equivalent as, lying to a kid about a lollipop. There's no difference at all. It's like the same as, separating someone's family into 4 distinct locations while giving various clues across a podcast that no one listens to, West, and sandwiches, and just sort of, splitting them apart and then having a video feed directed to each of them while you watch them watch each other be tortured slowly over an accumulation of many years. Or, maybe you don't give a tip to the pizza delivery driver. It's the same thing. They sound different. They sound radically differing, but the reality is they're on the same level. There's no difference at all. It's the exact same concept. They're all big guys. But really, being a big guy is a great thing. It's important. It's an essential piece of the fabric of life, and I encourage all of you to start down your big guy path as soon as possible. Anyway, this has been the Matt Hawker Show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a big guy for those of you out there that are big guys, and if you're not, hang in there.